On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, let's hand out some Thunder superlatives. Who's going to be the biggest breakout? Who's the best defender on this historically great defense? And what is the concern for OKC?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here on the Locked On Podcast Network, thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. You everydayers make the show work. We're diving in today to the Thunder's preseason superlatives. Who will have the biggest breakout? What stat should you be monitoring for this team? What's the biggest concern for this team? Who's the biggest threat? And so much more. Only 4 daily shows left that are non-game recaps until the regular season begins. We're almost there. So let's start our season preview coverage with Michael Martin of Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if that bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Michael, it's here, kind of. The NBA season, we're almost done with the preseason, and we're almost to the regular season. Our first season preview bit of content coming out now. How you feeling as we gear up for another season after a shorter off season?
I am very excited. We've talked about this before, the culture shock of going from the NBA Finals gameplay to Summer League and preseason. There's been a little bit of culture shock of just the quality of basketball, but the light is there at the end of the tunnel. There's a lot to be excited about. Like ring night's going to be awesome, seeing them drop the banner and stuff like that. So very excited to get back going to it, and always happy to talk hoops with you.
I cannot wait. I mean, the ring night and banner night on opening night against Kevin Durant and the Rockets, Christmas Day, it's going to get here quickly. Make sure you get your affairs in order, especially you parents out there need to buy some presents there. But there's also just going to be games every single night that matter for the Thunder in the sense of I keep thinking about how teams that win a championship, most notably last year with Boston. It's like Boston's the 2 most fun Thunder games last year in parts were them playing Boston because of how much that they both exhausted the effort and intensity, and it just felt like a big game. And there's going to be so many games this year that feel like a big game for the Thunder. Let's go through our Thunder superlatives, and let's start with this one, Michael. Who will have the biggest breakout for the Thunder this season?
Anyone who's listened to me knows that I am incredibly high on Ajay Mitchell. I think he's the guy. I think that coming off the bench, he's going to be the primary ball handler, and it's going to be one of those scenarios where by the end of the season, after the playoffs and however far the Thunder go, that we're going to have more national notoriety and from casual fans of going, the Breaking Bad meme of he can't keep getting away with this with Sam Presti of drafting these guys in the second round. I'm very high on AJ. He looked really, really good last year before he got that turf toe injury. I think he's going to be more polished this year. He's going to be more experienced. He added some extra muscle, so I think he's going to be better defensively. But I think he's going to be the breakout guy that we're talking at the end of the year who's improved the most.
Yeah, I mean, this team last year, whenever AJ Mitchell wasn't in the rotation because of the injury, before the injury, he was a staple of this rotation. Like, he really helps this half-court offense find a rhythm. He takes some pressure off of J-Dub whenever J-Dub is the lead initiator and shot creator for this team. In those secondary lineups, he can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He can score at all 3 levels, but primarily, of course, at the rim and from beyond the arc. He's just the perfect player for this team's offensive identity. And then defensively, Mark believes that he can be a plus defender, and we'll see if that happens this season for AJ. But I don't think that defense was his problem last year, even as a rookie, even without the added muscle that he does have now heading into this year. So AJ Mitchell is a great breakout candidate. I think that by the end of the year, he'll be a top 8 player in this rotation, which is a pretty lofty goal considering how talent-rich this team is. But my biggest breakout player for the Thunder this year, Chet Holmgren. I mean, we've talked about him all summer long. I want to see Chet Holmgren really lift this Thunder offense from 3, from his ability to play off the catch and get to the rim and thus get fouled, get easy buckets for this team. And when you're playing off the catch and you're bending defenses, he can display some improved playmaking as well out of that to set up even more easy opportunities for the Thunder to score. And, last year, you don't win that championship without Chet's defense. If this year he does improve in all those areas and becomes a viable force offensively, then you've built upon a team that was already good enough to win a championship, now gets even better offensively. I've got Chet Holmgren circled here for the biggest breakout.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can push back on the idea of Chet isn't anywhere near his full potential or getting to the player that we're going to see him in his prime if he can stay healthy. Defensively, we know what he is. He should, I'm making a video. We should pencil him into basically defensive player of the year ballots every year if he plays 65 games plus. Offensively, that's where the territory is that I want to see him explore and just really discover that space of, even if the percentages, Rylan, go down, the shooting splits don't look as good, I just want to see him experiment and try some things like we saw from Shea and Dub last season that helped him in the playoffs. But Chet is a great pick. He definitely still has the highest or one of the highest ceilings on this Thunder team. And if he breaks out, I don't really know what you do with this Thunder team after that, because we know what they are defensively. We know what Shea is. We know what Dub is. If Chet can become a true blue second or third option for this team, they're just going to be tough to handle.
It will be very tough to pick your poison, really, for how you want to attack this Thunder offense and this Thunder team, and the ways of which they can exploit defenses will be a lot of fun to watch. And that's the beautiful thing about this Thunder team. They retain 99% of their championship core from a year ago, and that core at almost every level is expected to get even better and not just try to repeat the process from what they did last season. The biggest headline stealer for positive reasons this year for Oklahoma City. That's the next superlative. And we've already talked about him. Ajay Mitchell, for me, is going to be the biggest headline stealer. I looked at this question and thought of it in the way of, like, who's the guy that we cannot wait to talk about after games? Where it's like, yeah, Shea did his thing, J-Dub did his thing. Like, you know what those top three guys did. What else can you say about Shea? He's awesome. But did you see Ajay Mitchell? Did you see what he was able to do offensively? Did you see what he was able to do defensively? Did you see that three that he hit in a very big spot? Did you see the rim finish and one opportunity to switch momentum? Like, I just think that Ajay Mitchell will be that next guy who, after we get done talking about how marvelous Shea was and how explosive J-Dub was, we're just itching to talk about Ajay Mitchell. So I have him as the biggest headline stealer.
It's crazy that we just flip-flop, because I have Chet Holmgren here for a lot of the same reasons of a guy where I think he's going to be on a lot of highlight tapes. I think that we're going to have conversations about him sort of in the similar vein where we know what Dub is, we know what Shea is, but we're going to come away and it's like, did you see that play where Chet swatted a shot off the backboard that went coast to coast and dunked on somebody? Did you see that play where he was the ball handler on a pick and roll and he hit a fadeaway jumper at the elbow? And just seeing him unleash more of his offensive potential, seeing him as a playmaker and things like that. Wemby is one of a kind in a lot of ways, and he's going to get a lot of highlights because he's already sort of the wonder child of the NBA right now. But I think that Chet is going to continue to close in on that gap and show just how special he is, because, Wemby is one of a kind, but if you kind of just erased his existence, there'd be totally different conversations about Chet and what he's doing, and he sort of gets overshadowed by Dub and Shea. But I think that we're going to get a firm, loud reminder from Chet this year about just how special he is.
And he has all-world potential. And I think that one way that he can steal the headlines is, last season, of course, with J-Dub dropping 40 points in the finals, he proved he can be a number two scoring option. He proved he can be a co-star next to Shea in the biggest moments. But you look at the top 100 lists coming out as the season approaches. Our top 100 had Chet at 30. That's kind of the range he's been in on all these. If he's going to have the season we expect him to, then by the turn of the new year, people are going to be asking the question, like, do the Thunder have three top 25 guys, top 20 guys, top 15 guys going to get to that mark? Like, he's going to be able to generate buzz and generate conversation. And, we'll see who ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year. The argument for Chet Holmgren could end up being, team success of he is an electrifying defender just like Wemby is, but Wemby's defense is in the bottom half of the league, and the Thunder's was number one yet again for yet another season. They're in the top of the heap defensively. So that could be his angle there. He'll be in that mix. I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's truly Wemby's Defensive Player of the Year to lose, even though the betting market has you thinking that. I don't think that that's how it's going to actually go in the sense of votes. Speaking of defense, on this historically great defense, who's the best defender for Oklahoma City? I think that that's going to be a very interesting conversation. Who's the most important bench piece? And what's the most fun stat to follow if you want to track the numbers on this team? All coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, my good friends over at Peloton, go check out Peloton today, because Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Make sure you check them out today because it's powered by Peloton IQ. It's the most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross training, it's there for you to help you use your favorite instructors and help you understand how you should be training. This training is reimagined with Peloton. Peloton is breaking through to you with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach your peak performances. Right now, the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength conditioning coaches for you. It even tracks your reps. It helps you get the right weights that you need and corrects your form. It makes it so much safer and so much smarter for you. With their swivel screen, it's a complete game changer. You can go from running to the Trend Plus strength training in less than a second without missing a beat. They also have personalized classes that are designed to keep you engaged and make sure you're doing workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level and your goals each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward by exploring the new Peloton Cross Training Trend Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's onepeloton.com. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Michael, this Thunder defense has been historic. And last year, with the best point differential in the league, you saw just how truly elite this defense is. They have the case to have upwards of 4 guys on all defensive teams this year, which the all-defensive team only has 10 spots. So, it just shows you the true depth of talent defensively on this roster. But if you had to pick one guy, who's the very best defender in Oklahoma City?
This is a really good concept and idea here because I think there are 4 different guys that you could really go with, and I'd have a hard time arguing with you, but I'm going to go with Chet Holmgren, even though he was the guy that the Thunder lacked for the most part of last year, even though they had that number 1 defense. But even in a 3-point heavy modern NBA like today, rim protection is still king, and he's the most versatile defender on this roster and one of the best defenders in the world. Of almost anything you ask him to do, he can do it. Hartenstein has been really helpful as sort of a secondary big that can help on the backside and guard some of the bigger, bigs, for lack of a better word. Chet can do that, but you don't want him to wear down as much. But the rim protection is unbelievable. He's just a savant on that end. He's the most naturally talented shot blocker I've seen in a while. He has great hips. He moves really well. And just to button it all up, like I mentioned earlier, there's not much you could ask him to do, and it wouldn't be possible for him. Like, if you went to a lab and said, we're going to engineer the perfect defender for the modern NBA, it'd probably come out looking a lot like Chet.
That's very true. Chet Holmgren, fits the bill. But as you mentioned, a lot of guys on this roster do. I mean, J-Dub can truly defend 1 through 5, and that is a just kind of buzzword that gets thrown out there a lot. It's very true for J-Dub. You saw him play the center even last year during stretches, much less whenever they had less front court depth. So, J-Dub deserves a lot of credit. Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, their reputations and their production speaks for themselves. Cason Wallace's ball hawking instincts and ability to block jump shots somehow speaks for itself. But rim protection, as you mentioned, is still king. That's the most important part of all of this. And so Chet having that in his bag, but also some of the biggest plays he made in the finals defensively were just sitting down in the mid-range and taking away shots from the Pacers, on the road. That's big time from Chet Holmgren. And I just think that because he's comfortable enough on an island to stay in front, and he has the great recovery speed, and he has the great shot blocking at the rim, which is so valuable, that it has to be Chet Holmgren here. And then if you tried to split the hairs of J-Dub, Caruso, Lou, Cason, it gets really tricky really fast. And that's the benefit of this team, because, Michael, who in the world can even come close to having this much of a debate over their best defender? It feels like around the league, there's a definitive guy on every roster who's hey, that's your defender, that's your point of attack guy, that's who's kind of your anchor, or who you're working around defensively. With the Thunder, they just have a whole treasure trove of them. Brooks Barnhizer might be in that mix by the end of the season. This is just a embarrassment of riches defensively, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. The only teams I can even think of, it's because of the opposite reasons. It's because they have no good defenders, so it's hard to pick their best one. Like the Hornets, for example, we just saw them play Oklahoma City twice, and it came to mind in Oklahoma City when they were playing the starters, and I was like, out of the 10 guys on the floor, the Thunder have the 5 best defenders. This should not be happening. This is crazy, but I think we're on pace for another great defensive season, and that's really going to be the backbone of this team, because defense travels. Defense doesn't really have a lot of variance like shooting and things like that, and I think that's going to carry them for most of the year.
I think so too, and I think that the defense sparking transition and how fluid all these guys are in transition to not just get those opportunities but capitalize on them is going to be great for them. The stat to watch for me. Let's jump to that in a second. Will be, of course, a defensive stat because of how great this historically great defense is. But before we do that, the superlative next up is, let's assume the Thunder start double big. So they start Shea, Lou, J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, and that's their starting five. Outside of those five, who's the most important bench player for this Thunder team?
I don't want to go with AJ again because we've already hit on him enough. So I'm going to go with Cason Wallace. I think that we're in for another treat with him where he's going to get even better defensively. As Mark has said many times, he's seen the pictures. He's grown on that end. And we're seeing even more on-ball reps for him. I think there's going to be some growing pains with that. I think that he's going to bounce back as a three-point shooter. But if Cason can sort of continue his trajectory as a rising young player that's sort of gone under the radar because of how talented the rest of this roster is, I think it's going to be awesome for this team. We've comped him to the likes of guys like Avery Bradley, Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, and others who, are low-tier all-stars to high-level starters. And if he can reach sort of that status, I think that once again takes the Thunder team ceiling to another level.
I think that you nailed it with Cason Wallace, especially for the regular season being the most important piece. Let's spread the love for a second and talk Alex Caruso, because I still believe that come playoff time, he is the most important bench piece. He's clearly not going to start no matter what they do with altering their starting lineups. Like, that's just not a role that the Thunder are going to put him in, as they didn't do it hardly at all last season. And his energy he brings off the bench and the tone setting he brings off the bench is big. His versatility is big. But another important part of this, I mean, we have a whole season to try to build up some trust in these guys. But as of today, before the season begins, who do you trust off this bench to knock down a three in the playoffs? I trust Alex Caruso to knock down the three in the playoffs. A wide open look generated for him off of J-Dub or off of Shea's gravity. So for the 3-point shot and for the electrifying defense, where he's able to defend Jokic in spurts and defend every wing and defend every guard and lock down possessions, to me, it's most important in the playoffs. Like, this question, I think, is rightfully answered as Cason if it's all encompassing. Like, you have to include the regular season in your thought process. But if you're only talking importance of playoffs and championships, I would lean Alex Caruso here just to talk about another guy. And because that 3-point issue for this team, or concern for this team, like, he's the one that I trust the most.
I absolutely agree. I think that you kind of have to separate them into two buckets, and Cason's going to get a lot of those reps because you're saving AC for the playoffs. It kind of goes hand in hand. But Caruso off the bench, he's sort of the solvent for whatever the Thunder need offensively or defensively. He can get things going on offense. He can set screens. We saw him create a lot of mismatches that way. Defensively, what can you not say about this guy? What else is there to say? He's just awesome at whatever he does. He's an extension of Mark on the floor. You can throw him in whatever lineup and sort of just amplifies it. So I'm right there with you in terms of Case in the regular season, but you're going to once again need to rest up AC for the playoffs because that's where he's really going to shine.
Michael, I think that you're really going to like my stat to watch. It's really near and dear to your heart, and I will shamelessly plug your videos here, because on Let's Talk Thunder's YouTube, you can get more in depth on this topic. But my stat to follow throughout the season is stocks, steals plus blocks. Can the Thunder force you to make stocks 3.0 about this team and how they make up for their lack of rebounding rate, especially giving up boards? Can they still be historic at generating turnovers and forcing missed and botched offensive possessions for the opposition? I think that that's going to be their calling card yet again, but that's a very hard thing to do night in and night out, especially on the heels of a championship. I'm going to be following how much they can still rack up the stocks. And on Thursday, the only game we've really seen them play with a semblance of their actual roster was Cason and Caruso and all them flying around in the passing lane. So it makes me think that you're going to be in line for stocks 3.0.
Man, I am predictable because I went with basically the same thing of I want to see what they do, and more so just the turnover margin, because on both ends, the Thunder were number one in forcing turnovers, and they also turned it over the least. I wonder if that sticks. I wonder if we see some guys experiment because they're coming off a title, and maybe, I want to say they're more complacent, but they're looser. We see AJ, we see Topic, we see Cason handle the ball more and try some different things, turn it over a little bit more. And then also, on the other end, can they force the same amount of turnovers or more and just still be that dominant defense that we saw from last year that just controlled the possession battle and stuff like that? So let's see. Maybe there will be a stock 3.0 video. I'm kind of running out of stats and metrics to measure them unless I want to use the ones I've already done before. But, this team is awesome and how they sort of control games like that where, Mark broke it down one time about just points per possession of, what's better than a missed shot? Not letting them get a shot off at all. And that's what they do with these stocks with the blocks and steals. So right there with you, and we'll see. This is the biggest tease we've ever done for a potential video like 6 months from now.
Yeah, 6 months from now, just remember where you heard it first, that there's going to be a stock market 3.0 on Let's Talk Thunder's YouTube page. I do like this shout out to the Thunder's turnovers themselves because it kind of is like a quarterback who never turns the ball over. It's like, well, are you just a really good quarterback or are you just not taking chances? And then it's hurting your offense in a way. It's like, what if this season you do see Shea get more adventurous with his passes more consistently? He tried that behind the back bounce pass to Lou on the Thursday preseason opener, which worked out perfectly. But if that was a turnover, let's say, like let's try to warp our minds into thinking that he turned it over, I wouldn't be upset with that. I would be wanting him to try more things of that degree and just see what you can get comfortable with and what you can get away with. And then you mentioned Topic. I mean, a rookie being thrown in here as whatever minutes he plays, he's likely going to be on the ball primarily, the primary points of the time. He's going to lead to some turnovers, you'd imagine. And so like just how much that they try to open things up with their passing ability offensively. Sam Presti's talked about in the playoffs, you want the pass and not the dribble. So can we see them try more things that lead to more turnovers and how they kind of counteract that? That's another good stat to follow along with. However, we've talked a lot about how great this team is. What's the concern for the Thunder this season? Let's talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, your friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because if you're a new customer, you can bet just $5, just $5. And if it hits, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's right. You place a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app if you're a new customer. The NFL season is here. You can use that money on Monday Night Football tonight, but you also have NBA bets to make. I would not encourage you to do it on preseason, but they do have awards odds of who's going to win the MVP. They do have who's going to win the NBA championship. They also have opening night odds out there already. The Thunder 8.5-point favorites over Houston. So if you want to get in on that action, you can do that at FanDuel right now. Again, new customers, put down $5, get $300 if that bet hits. If you're a new customer at FanDuel, go visit them at FanDuel.com to get started or download their app at the FanDuel app. Also want to tell you right now, our good friends over at Monarch Money, folks. Go check out Monarch Money today because Monarch Money is awesome. Most people can't even name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks or properties or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. That way you can link all your accounts in minutes and see clear-cut data visuals, smart categorizations of your spending, and finally feel like you're in complete control of your money because you are with Monarch Money without ever touching a spreadsheet. This is not a math pod, so I hate spreadsheets. So I'm very thankful for Monarch Money. One of the most convenient tools that they have for me is that clear-cut data visuals of your spending and the categorizations of your spending, because I got to know how much I'm spending on these subscription services. So, a 7-day free trial here, they end up charging you at the end of it. And this streaming service there that you bought 3 months ago and forgot to cancel, they make sure that you are aware of what you're spending and what you can trim back on to help save you money. Do not let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com on your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day here talking with Michael Martin. Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube, and we're doing our Thunder superlatives. So, OKC's biggest concern this season, Michael, what is it?
It's a cliche. It's just complacency. Does this team look like they're sort of satisfied? It's against sort of all the Thunder ethos and what we know about them to be complacent, but I think some of this is just natural human elements and things like that. Like we saw them last year, like Game 6 of the NBA Finals comes to mind, where They came in, and you could kind of see the way that the Pacers attacked them as a desperate team, and the way that the Thunder didn't exactly capitalize on that opportunity. They did the same thing in Game 3 on the road against the Wolves, where they just kind of got slammed. I wonder if they kind of sit back on some of these things and have a bigger picture of the season. Maybe it's one of those things that seeps in that's not even like a conscious decision, but I want to see how hard they sort of attack the regular season. I don't think they'll do it, nor should they, like they did last year, but do they get caught up in some of these games where they're losing to teams below 500 more? Do we see them in late game situations where they kind of screwed around too often and they have to really sweat it out at the end against a Washington or whoever? I think that's the biggest question I have.
It's a good question, and you're right. I am kind of just trusting the Thunder's ethos and the Thunder's philosophies to really come through for them again. The 0-0, 1 of 82 stuff, and they've said all the right things to date about trying to defend this championship and trying to just stay focused on the moment. But that is a real concern. And part of that concern on the court for me, the biggest concern to me, we're not talking injuries because that's a concern for everybody. The biggest concern for this team is what if they don't shoot better? Because they did shoot 13 out of 16 teams 3-point percentage-wise last year in the playoffs. And that's just not sustainable to win. They did win it, and they did a great job of doing that. But we've also kind of like pushed that aside as almost like, well, surely they won't be that bad again. Like surely they'll have balls bounce their way this time. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think that the conversation we had earlier about Caruso, like that's the guy I trust right now to hit a playoff three. I want to see this offense do what they did Thursday against Charlotte, of generate better quality threes, generate more consistent threes, where you're not just solely relying on the drive and kick stuff to bail you out as a 3-point option for yourself, and almost changing, but just kind of slightly differing your offense in that regard. And they've just got to shoot the ball better. I think that if they do fall short of expectation, we'll largely look at their shooting numbers didn't bounce back from being a bottom half of the playoff field from three.
Yeah, you got to see them knock down some more shots. We saw them almost get caught a few different times. I'd love to know the percentages and where they ranked. We know last year, middle of the pack, but 2 years ago when they lost to the Mavericks, what that looked like. But we saw them almost get caught in the finals where they win Game 4 in miraculous fashion off a major comeback. They made like 4 threes in that game. That was the least made number of threes by a winner in an NBA Finals game since like 2008, which it just seems like a lifetime ago in terms of the 3-point revolution that we've seen. So I'm right there with you. I think that we need to see guys like Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso continuing on what he's doing, like you mentioned. How does Dub look with his wrist sort of fixed? Shea was sort of up and down from three. Chet really struggled for a while, and how much is that his hip? How much is that the moment? How much is whatever? But I think that you're right there of like the defense is going to get you there and keep you in games, but you're going to have to make threes to really extend these leads and put teams away or make comebacks, God forbid. So the 3-point shooting is going to be a major question and sort of a threat for them.
And I mean, you go back to the year that they lost to the Mavericks in the second round. They were 9th in 3-point shooting percentage wise throughout the whole playoffs. Part of that was elevated, of course, by how good they were against New Orleans and Josh Giddey hitting threes against New Orleans in that first round. But still, they were better, so that can kind of alleviate some of your preseason stress about this topic. But we've just got to see them go and do that. Michael, I think that the biggest strength for this team is a no-brainer. And that's their defense. And there's been some pushback to their defense of just, historically, it's very hard to do this again. Like that's kind of what Matt Moore always says about this team's defense. But we just went through how many elite options that they have defensively, and that's what this team's built on. It would be to me in the same vein as like, well, can the Warriors really shoot great from three again this year? It's like, yeah, they have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. It's like we didn't do that whenever the Warriors were going through their run of just like, but what if this is the year they just stop hitting threes? Will you ever think of that? It's like, yeah, if the Thunder stop playing great defense, like, oh, surprise, surprise, they're not going to be as good. But they're not going to do that. I think that they're still going to be a really good defensive team. And so I really believe that the biggest strength of this team is their defense.
Yeah, there was a little bit of questioning after the Warriors title of can they shoot this well again, but it was before, and it's sort of parallel to the Thunder team of, we didn't know. We're watching 2 of the greatest shooters of all time. So, yes, you can do this. And we're watching maybe one of the greatest defensive teams of all time. And you mentioned, Matt Moore and some of the comments about it's going to be really hard to repeat these things. Mark talks about it, and it's a cliche about the group being uncommon, but think about how many different times it was like, they're the first team to do this, they're the first team to do this, they're the first team since 1965 to have a championship core with this young of pieces and things like that. So it's hard for me to put things past them. With that being said, that doesn't mean they're going to hit the same mark. Defense, I think, is also their greatest strength, but I'm going to go in a different direction just so we're not talking about the same thing. And I'm going to go with the depth, where we talked about the defensive depth, but offensively, they also have some more guys. We're going to see Ajay Mitchell. He's been a big part of this show of what we've talked about. I think he's going to be a major key offensively. We're going to see some extra growth from Shea. He always comes back better. Chet has been a major talking point around training camp in the preseason. Dub with a working wrist will be better than non-working wrist Dub. Caruso, we know what he is. Hartenstein, I think, is going to get a little bit better. Kaysen, and so on and so forth. They have real playoff depth of not just we can go 6, 7. They can go 8, 9, 10. And I think that's what really separates them, as we saw them throughout the playoffs last year, of sort of the war of attrition didn't hit them because they didn't have guys playing major minutes.
Yeah, I think that this defense is just going to be their biggest selling point. It should be, and it better be. I mean, like, it would be incredibly disappointing if their defense takes a step back this season, especially if we're looking at this through the prism of what they do in the playoffs. Perhaps they can be the third best defense in the league in the regular season, and that goes into the complacency concern. But then come pro season time, their defense should be the best defense in the playoffs, for sure. Now, when you're looking at the biggest threats to the Thunder, this is clearly a more postseason question, as the threats in the regular season don't really matter, especially in the modern NBA, where you can't even predict who's going to play opening night, much less who's going to play in January. The biggest threat to this Thunder team to me is Denver, and I know that Denver is really high on their depth. I'm high on their depth to help them throughout the regular season. In the postseason, though, like, as long as they're healthy, which they weren't last year, like, this team can go toe to toe with Oklahoma City, and to me, Denver is the only respectable threat, in the sense that if you lost to Denver, if you tell me right now that you know how the season's going to end and they end against Denver in 7 games, okay, it's a bummer that they didn't. It's a bummer that they didn't repeat as champions. It's a bummer they didn't buck the trend of parity in the NBA. But Denver, that's explainable. That's a formidable foe. If they lose to anybody not named Denver, that is extremely disappointing to me with the way that this team is set up and the way that other teams are set up. So Denver, to me, is the clear biggest threat to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Outside of just the things we've talked about before, of injuries, whatever, things like that, losing to Denver is the most honorable way to lose if you're going to lose. I think they're the number one threat as well. Jokic, he's still the best player in the world. If you want to argue, second best player behind Shea, whatever it is. He's an all-time great. He's an all-time great offensive engine. He's borderline unguardable. The Thunder did a lot of great things to sort of help manage him, but this team, they're going to be healthier. We saw Aaron Gordon get hurt. We saw Michael Porter Jr. playing with one shoulder that I think sort of gets forgotten. So if their depth doesn't even have to be good, it just has to be not bad, that's going to go a long way for them. And you talk about the teams that have given the Thunder trouble in the playoffs, the 3 that come to mind are the Mavericks, the Pacers, the Nuggets. What do all those 3 teams have? They have elite playmakers who can dice you up from anywhere on the floor as passers, and then there's 3-point shooting. And that team is going to have that. I think we both, as we know before, and anyone listening knows, we love Cam Johnson. We think that's a great addition. So I'm right there with you. I think that David Adelman's done a really good job, and I'm excited to see how this team sort of attacks the Thunder, sort of with them on, with the target on their back through the entire season, because they're the measuring stick the entire way, and we know that Denver is going to be sort of like Mr. T in the Rocky movie, where he's working out in the basement just looking at the one picture all year. So they're going to be measuring up against them, and I think it's without a doubt Denver's the biggest threat.
Yeah, and take this with a grain of salt because it's the preseason, but just watching Denver in the preseason, they're launching threes, and that's what they should be doing. And the Thunder's willingness to sacrifice and surrender corner threes and live with the variance that they provide naturally, it could bite them in a series against Denver, like full stop, against Nikola Jokic. So I just think that Denver has the capabilities to exploit some things that the Thunder let happen, and to exploit the ways that the Thunder play that other teams can't do. And speaking of what other teams can't do, if you look right now, who is a realistic playoff team that the Thunder should be just licking their chops to see? Like, you think that right now, if I told you that these 2 teams match up in the playoffs, your worry meter, your worry scale of how much percentage they can lose to this team, it would be 0. You don't think that there's any way that they can lose a series to them?
Despite what he said in his interviews, I don't think that John Morant figured out the Thunder. I don't think so. I think that Memphis, that'd be another great trip for us, going to Graceland, get your pod there, get Locked on Thunder live. But this Memphis team, they no doubt in my mind got worse. Maybe they will get better in the long term, and one of those things where it's like one step back, 2 steps forward, whatever that is. But Desmond Bane's been a major piece for them for a long time. He's the only other real playmaker they've had for a while when John Morant's out. Can't really trust him. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. just got out-muscled by the likes of Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams in a real way that was sort of just disheartening for a guy who's supposed to be one of the Defensive Player of the Year candidates every year and a former depoy. So I'm going to go with Memphis. There's plenty of good options here, but I like this question.
I want to stress that I sent you the questions. I did not know your responses to this, and you did not know my responses to this, because we both, once again, have picked the same result of Memphis. I look at Memphis as a team that, like Ty Jerome last year wasn't a playoff player for Cleveland, and this Thunder defense will make life even harder and expose him even more. Zach Edey is not a playoff player to me. Jaren Jackson Jr. is terrible against this Thunder team. And then Ja could steal a game. Ja could be a great player in a singular game. He cannot beat the Thunder. Like, he just can't do it with what's around him. And I like Memphis's roster a little bit more than this would suggest. I just think that in the playoffs, styles make fights so much that this matchup in particular sucks for Memphis. And it would be so disheartening for Memphis to go through a regular season and then again play Oklahoma City, because I just don't see a way in which they beat them in the playoffs. But I do think that, like, against a different team that's not the Thunder juggernaut, Memphis could be capable of winning a playoff round if they got the right matchup. This is just not the right matchup for them at all. I would have 0% fear of the Thunder losing to the Memphis Grizzlies. So we'll see how this season unfolds. We'll probably have Memphis fans clipping this out at the end of the year. But the NBA, going general here, this does not have to include the Thunder at any regard. In fact, this question cannot include the Thunder because we're going to watch all 82 Thunder games. The NBA's most fun team to watch this year doesn't have to be a contender. Just whenever you close your eyes right now and think about next week and opening night and League Pass is fired up and hopefully the app is working, who are you excited to turn on?
I mean, some of it is because of the Thunder just comparisons and the measuring stick talk that we mentioned before, but it's got to be Denver. I mean, Jokic.
Dang it, Michael.
Same one?
Same one. I'm going to have to pivot on this one. We got to talk about another team but Denver.
Jokic is incredibly fun to watch. There are going to be some other teams, but just they're a team you're going to have to watch all year, of sort of looking them back and forth with the Thunder of like who's sort of got the edge at this point in the season, who's looking better going to the playoffs. So Jokic is incredibly fun to watch. They got our guy Cam Johnson. They're going to be spraying threes. They're going to be playing fast. They're going to be having a lot of fun. So it's hard not to pick Denver, which is why I don't blame you. There's some other candidates, which maybe I can hit on after yours, but Denver's number one.
Denver is my number one because Jokic, because of my guy Cam Johnson. I like watching Jamal Murray play. I like the development. He impressed me so much throughout his run at the end of last season, and I think that this can look a bit different for what Denver tries to do stylistically, and they've been talking about trying to be more physical defensively. Let's see if that comes to fruition for Denver. But Denver's my number one, and it was also the NBA GM survey's number one, with the Thunder being tied there as the most fun team to watch. I'm going to pivot, though. Let's go with the Lakers, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I've fallen for the Lakers, as you know, this offseason. I've fallen for the Lakers propaganda, and I know I shouldn't have. But a desperate DeAndre Ayton. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this could work. Marcus Smart, I think, will have his best three-point shooting percentage of his career, which is not saying all too much, but still saying something. Jake LaRavia, JJ Redick has more optionality with this roster. LeBron James, Austin Reeves. And another big reason why I want to watch the Lakers, and this is, again, we have to do it further than just contention status. The Lakers are a team that you legitimately have to watch because you cannot rely on anything else. Like, first of all, you should always be watching these teams in our jobs, but you also just cannot rely on what their fans are saying, what their fans are complaining about. You can't rely on what the media is saying because everything is so polarizing and so dramatized with the Lakers. You either just think that they're the best thing since sliced bread, or you pick apart every little tiny detail that they ever do and call it the worst thing in basketball. And then you watch it for yourself and say, okay, this is just kind of right down the middle. So getting a true feel for any team not watching them is hard, but in particular, it's hard for the Lakers. It's like you just won't know what to expect unless you actually are watching them. And I also have bought into the Lakers, so I have to go to the Lakers. And then my selfish ones would be the Suns and the Sixers, as you all know. Jalen Green, baby. And then I have a bet with the Sixers, and I always fall for the Sixers. And I love their broadcast, and I love their song, and I love Joel Embiid if he plays at all. So those are my teams. I'm excited to fire up and watch.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron in his twilight years, you got to watch it before the end of the road. And then the other two teams I have, I'm realizing that I only like the West teams, apparently. Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs are going to be incredibly interesting. It was sort of, they're on the track of the Thunder a couple of years ago of like really breaking out. Year 3 for these really generational, transcendent stars like we expect Wemby to be. This is the moment where they break out. Dylan Harper is going to be really interesting. Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, what does he look like on this team? And the other one that I have that's more League Pass junkie-esque is the Portland Trailblazers, because I'm just really intrigued at what they do. They've got a lot of guys who it's like boom or bust with Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson. Do these guys sink or swim? Young Hansen is going to be an interesting guy. Tamani Kamara is really interesting. So excited to see what they do as they get some more of these veterans in the back line of like names not going to play, but they're adding Drew Holiday. So I'd say those teams for sure.
I like it. I really do. And I think that the Spurs is a great call because it's just an awkward fit right now. Like whenever you're trying to envision how they're going to play, their front court and I should say backcourt is very weird. How do they solve that problem for them? Will be fun. Who's going to be, do you think, the biggest possible mover and shaker at the trade deadline? Of like if you were to try to predict who at the deadline makes that biggest move that we think reshapes and almost discards the first half of the season, who would you try to predict that to be?
I've got two teams. The first one I'm going to go with is the Golden State Warriors, which anyone who's listened to our pods this summer knows I'm kind of low on. And we already know that Jonathan Kuminga is a human trade exception, so they're going to make a deal. And they know this is Steph's twilight years. They know that Jimmy and Draymond, the clock's sort of running thin on them. So they're going to have to make some sort of deal. I don't know who that's going to be, but we know they're going to go big game hunting once again, and they're going to have to make a big addition to this already just ancient team. So maybe they'll get a younger guy, maybe they'll once again go for another NBA senior citizen, but I think that they have a ton of variance, and especially if they start out slow, they're going to have to make a major swing at the deadline.
I like that. I like the Warriors. I put the Houston Rockets. It's going to be hard because of the salary restrictions. However, they do have a lot of dry assets and dry powder out there, even after pulling off the KD trade. And I just think that I trust this team to win in the regular season. And them winning in the regular season leading into the deadline with a glaring issue in their guard room is going to be too tempting to try to go do something. So I think that they can do something at the deadline and should do something with whatever they can make work within their constraints. But I think Houston could be that team. This is an easy answer to me. The NBA's worst team for me, the Brooklyn Nets. We talk about who we're excited to watch. The Brooklyn Nets don't have a single NBA player on their team. Like they're just terrible. And to put into perspective how terrible that they are, they made 5 draft picks, and I thought each of them suck. I thought each of them are going to be out of the league here in a couple of years, and that's almost impossible to do. To not have a single guy that myself, as one of the biggest optimisms in the NBA media world, think they all suck. Like that's just bad.
I have a two-way tie between the Nets and the Hornets, so sort of tied together. But you mentioned the Nets. There's just nothing other than if you want to watch Cam Thomas get some buckets. There's nothing to watch there that's going to be interesting. Their uniforms are boring. Everything about their team is boring. And then the Hornets, outside of LaMelo, playing a little bit and seeing what they do with him. He misses too many games. Con Knippel, Derek's guy, is going to be interesting, and Brandon Miller's awesome. But the rest of those rosters combined are just not very good. And I'd say that both of them, whether intentional or not, are going to find themselves very high up on lottery night.
And the easiest answer on the board, the best team in the NBA heading into the season, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oklahoma City. Yes, that's just the Thunder. I mean, they're the deepest, most talented team. They just won the championship. They retained their roster. It's going to be a fun year, Michael. It's going to be a fun year at Let's Talk Thunder over on YouTube. And you've got something very special cooking up. If you need something to hold you over until next week's banner night on Let's Talk Thunder, it's going to be a great video, which you can tease right here.
Yep, dropping a video tomorrow, which we've talked a lot about today, which is just how dominant their defense was by the numbers, just one of the all-time great defenses, and how the Thunder sort of played the percentages to their advantages. So that's definitely something you're going to want to look out for. Subscribe if you aren't already, so that'll instantly hit your timeline box tomorrow.
Go check that out. On Locked On Thunder, we are a 5-day-a-week daily show, plus every game recap, plus our live shows. Next live show is today, Monday at 2 p.m. Central Time on Locked On Thunder's YouTube page, uploaded to podcasts wherever you get them. Afterward with Derek Parker. This week starts our season preview weeks, which kicks off with Michael Martin. We'll have Brendan Rabar tomorrow. We'll have Andrew Schleck later on in the week. Me and Derek previewing again on the live streams, 2 p.m. Central Time, Monday and Thursday, here on Locked On Thunder's YouTube channel. And then, of course, wherever you get your podcast following that. Michael, thanks for joining us. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.